The moment Jungkook broke down in tears after hearing his mother's trembling voice over the phone has left millions of fans in shock. Known worldwide as a figure of resilience, confidence, and charm, Jungkook has rarely allowed the public to witness his most vulnerable side. Yet when his mother's voice pierced through the silence, carrying with it an unspoken heaviness, the youngest member of BTS could no longer contain his emotions. What startled the world even more was not only Jungkook's tears, but also Jin's reaction. The eldest member of BTS, usually composed in any circumstance, suddenly displayed visible panic. Why did this moment unfold in such intensity, and what truly happened that forced Jin to step in when Jungkook himself could not move first? Jungkook has always been perceived as the golden magne, someone who seems unshakable even under the harshest spotlight. But that image collapsed instantly when his mother's voice reached him. The trembling tone of a mother calling her son did not sound like a casual check-in. It carried a weight that shook Jungkook to the core. His tears were not of simple longing. They were a reaction to fear, helplessness, and perhaps regret. Fans watching or reading about the incident immediately sensed that this was not just a private family matter but a crisis that struck at the heart of Jungkook's identity as both an idol and a son. The shocking turn came when Jin, not Jungkook, was the first to act. Why did Jin step forward so decisively while Jungkook remained frozen in tears? The question hangs heavily over ARMY and observers alike. Jin, as the eldest, has always embodied responsibility, but his sudden urgency in this particular situation suggests that he perceived something more than anyone else in the room. His voice, sharper and louder than usual, even described by some as a desperate call, made it clear that the condition of Jungkook's mother was not to be taken lightly. Fans could not help but wonder, what did Jin hear or sense that drove him to react with such force? This mystery has ignited countless discussions. Some argue that Jin's instincts as the eldest brother figure kicked in at the very moment he realized Jungkook could not handle the burden. Others believe Jin may have known fragments of information earlier, information that Jungkook himself might not have fully shared with the group. Still, the fact remains, Jin did not hesitate. He raised his voice, demanded help, and immediately turned the attention of those present toward the gravity of the situation. In that split second, Jin became more than an artist on stage. He became the voice of urgency when Jungkook was silenced by grief. Why, then, did Jungkook not rush home first to see his mother? Why was Jin the one who acted, instead of the son himself? This is the painful question that remains unanswered. Jungkook's breakdown suggests a young man caught between duty to his career and love for his family. The very conflict idols face daily, the expectation to remain unshaken before millions, while privately they endure personal storms, was exposed brutally in that moment. For Jungkook, the emotional paralysis that struck him when he heard his mother cry was perhaps not weakness, but a manifestation of deep regret. Could it be that he felt guilt for not being by her side sooner? Jin's role in this event carries symbolic weight. By stepping forward, he not only offered Jungkook support but also shielded him from a public unraveling. Fans who followed the story noted that Jin's tone, his sudden urgency, and even his visible tension stood in stark contrast to his usual calm demeanor. This discrepancy has fueled speculation. Was Jin aware that Jungkook's mother had been enduring something serious for a while? Did Jin see the signs earlier, long before Jungkook collapsed in tears? If so, his silence until now may have been an act of protection, but at this critical moment, he could no longer stay quiet. The image of a superstar sobbing helplessly while his elder brother figure shouted for help is not one the public expected to witness. Yet it has sparked conversations about the fragile humanity behind the glittering facade of fame. For ARMY, the questions are endless. What exactly did Jungkook's mother say that made her own tears break through the phone line? Why did her son collapse instead of immediately rushing to her side? Why was Jin compelled to intervene so visibly, breaking his usual composure? This chain of events shows more than just a family's private crisis. It highlights the silent battles idols carry within them. Jungkook's hesitation, his tears, and Jin's urgent reaction expose the cost of living under constant expectation. Even for the most celebrated figures in the world, the sound of a mother's sorrow can dismantle everything. It can reduce a global icon to a trembling son, and it can force the eldest brother in a group to raise his voice for the sake of someone else's family. The tension surrounding this moment has not subsided. Each retelling of what happened only intensifies the mystery. Why was Jin quicker to act than Jungkook himself? Was Jungkook too consumed by regret to move? Or was Jin's instinct sharper, his judgment clearer in the chaos? This reversal of roles, where the elder takes immediate action while the son collapses into grief, has left the world unsettled. What remains certain is that this event has etched itself into the memory of fans worldwide. It serves as a reminder that behind the stages, the lights, and the applause lies a fragile humanity that no amount of fame can shield. Jungkook's tears and Jin's desperate urgency revealed the raw truth. Even idols can be paralyzed by family pain, and sometimes it takes someone else, an elder brother, a friend, a bandmate, to act in their place. And so, the haunting question continues to echo among fans and observers alike. What truly happened to Jungkook's mother that night, and why was Jin the one who had to raise his voice when Jungkook could not? The silence after Jungkook's tears was deafening. Those present could feel the weight of something that words could not fully capture. The youngest member of BTS, usually the source of lightheartedness, suddenly appeared shattered. The call from his mother was not merely emotional, it was a cry that carried urgency, fragility, and perhaps desperation. For a son to hear his mother weep is already heartbreaking, but for Jungkook, who has lived years separated from his family due to relentless schedules, the guilt seemed to cut deeper than the grief itself. Observers could not ignore one critical point. Jungkook did not rise from his seat immediately. Instead, he remained frozen, gripping his phone tightly, tears running down his face, unable to formulate a response. This immobility raised questions. Was it disbelief? Was it the overwhelming shock of realizing that his mother's voice carried a deeper pain? Or was it something else, an inner conflict between being the global star the world demanded and being the son his mother needed? Jin's intervention shattered that silence. He raised his voice, calling for help in a tone that was far removed from his usual composed character. Reports describe his shout as sharp, commanding, almost desperate, a tone that echoed the severity of the situation. This sudden eruption from someone known for calmness struck the audience as a red flag. If Jin, of all people, was panicking, the matter must have been more dire than anyone imagined. Why Jin? Why was it not Jungkook himself? This has become the central question. Fans across the globe speculate that Jungkook's paralysis stemmed from overwhelming regret. Perhaps he blamed himself for not being there earlier, for allowing distance and obligations to keep him away from home at a time when his mother's condition was deteriorating. In contrast, Jin, older, more experienced, and often seen as a pillar of stability, may have recognized instantly that action was needed, not tears. His instincts overrode hesitation. He demanded attention, demanded movement, demanded urgency. The stark difference in their reactions has ignited deeper debates. One group of fans interprets Jungkook's immobility as proof of his deep emotional bond with his mother, so deep that hearing her cry incapacitated him. Another perspective views Jin's response as evidence of his role not only as a bandmate, but as an elder brother who shoulders responsibility even when it is not his burden. He stepped into a role that many would expect from Jungkook, not because he wanted to, but because the moment demanded it. This reversal of expected roles exposes a brutal truth about fame and family. For idols, the distance between career and home often creates fractures unseen by the public. When family crises strike, the inability to be physically present magnifies guilt to unbearable levels. Jungkook, torn between worlds, broke under that weight. His tears were not only for his mother's pain, but for his own helplessness as a son. Meanwhile, Jin's decisive action served as a mirror to that helplessness. His shout was not just a call for assistance, it was a call that replaced Jungkook's silence. In that moment, Jin's voice became the bridge between a crying mother and a son paralyzed by grief. It became the sound of urgency when words failed Jungkook. The world now wonders, what exactly did Jungkook's mother say that shattered her son? Was it an announcement of illness, a revelation of hardship, or simply the unbearable crack of her own tears? And why did it escalate to the point where Jin himself could not stay silent? The mystery intensifies with each retelling, with fans dissecting every detail, searching for answers that may never come. One cannot ignore the symbolic weight of this event. It highlighted not only the fragility of Jungkook, but also the protective force of Jin. The eldest member, who often downplays his authority, proved once again why he is seen as the group's anchor. His reaction has been described as instinctive, fatherly, almost desperate to shield Jungkook from the collapse he was experiencing. The ripple effect of this moment continues to spread. Fans from around the globe have flooded social media with questions, theories, and heartfelt messages of support. The image of Jungkook weeping while Jin called out for help has become one of the most haunting depictions of vulnerability in the group's history. It strips away the glitter of superstardom and leaves only raw humanity. At its core, this is not just a story about an idol and his family. It is a story about the collision of duty and love, of guilt and responsibility, of silence and urgency. Jungkook's tears told the story of a son who felt powerless in the face of his mother's pain. Jin's raised voice told the story of an elder who refused to let that silence dominate. Together, their contrasting reactions formed a moment that the world cannot forget. And so, the most pressing question remains unanswered. Why was it Jin who moved first, not Jungkook? Was Jungkook truly unable to act out of shock? Or was his inaction a reflection of deeper regret that froze him in place? Until that question is answered, the mystery surrounding Jungkook's mother and the urgency in Jin's voice will continue to haunt both ARMY and the global public. Because in that room, for the first time, the strongest idol broke, and the eldest stepped in to carry a weight that was never his to bear.